Welcome, everyone. We're going to talk today about iPhone settings. And truthfully, we could talk for days about iPhone settings. There are millions of iPhone settings. Let me look at the chat here. Oh, thank you, Elmer. Elmer mentioned that Friday's genealogy class is connecting through family reunions. So if you're
Connie did that. I didn't.
Oh, okay. I was wondering, why would you know and Connie wouldn't? Okay. Okay. All right. Welcome, everyone. We're going to talk about iPhone settings. There's bazillions of them. We could talk for weeks about it. Um, Most of you know me. Lois, if you're new, a brief introduction. We have a group called Senior Citizens Senior Center Tech Connect, which is SCTC, and we're all volunteers. I was a marketing guy in real life in high performance technical computing, which means I worked on things like the Human Genome Project and finding oil in weird places and launching rockets and cool things like that. Um, I have been a programmer. I do a lot of writing. I grew up with computers in mid 60s. The high school I was going to ended up with a computer and I fell in love. So even though I've of this generation, I actually spent my life with computers. So I fell in love with them at an early age and couldn't look back. So I always like to introduce this and see if you're in the right place, right? So this presentation is for you if you have an iPhone already and you're wondering what all those settings do, or you have questions about specific settings, or you want to know more about security, we're going to talk about that. Or maybe you're considering an iPhone and you're curious, or of course, you just came for the excitement. So some real quick notes here. This is a crazy presentation. As most of you know, most of my presentations are kind of like a story, or we talk about how something works, and then we talk about how it benefits you. This is more like an encyclopedia of, this setting does this and this setting does that. So stay awake. But what we've done here is put a little star next to the ones that I feel are important. And also, if you don't have the handout, grab it. And it has basically the slide content, so you can follow along there. You can also follow along on your iPhone if you like. But if something just doesn't seem to work, note the page number we're on. I try to keep a page number on each slide, and we'll have a Q&A at the end. Now, it's important to note here that the settings here are iOS 26, which came out in October of 2025, so not that long ago. And many of you may not be on 26 yet. You're probably on iOS 17. It's not a whole lot different, but there are things that could be different. So, and we can talk about how to get to iOS 26. We actually have a video about that under the longmontsctc.org website, which is also in the handout. And never be afraid to try stuff, right? What's the worst that can happen? Oh, well, it's only money, right? Um, for some reason, as I was putting this together, I hope most of you have seen Back to the Future when Marty starts to play the down in Louisiana, right? What's the name of that song? Anyway, he turns around to the band and he says, "All right, guys, listen, this is blues riff and B. Watch me for the changes and try to keep up, okay?" Well, that's what this presentation is going to be like. So buckle up, okay? So let's talk about what we're going to talk about. And I always break these presentations down into a couple of chunks. The first one is always what I call the not particularly useful, but mildly entertaining section. This is like how things work, what's all the stuff in the background. And you can sleep through this if you want. So Elmer, feel free to take a nap during this part of the presentation. The second part is the informative and hopefully useful section, and that's the one we'll have the quiz on at the end, so stay awake for that one. So first of all, there's this thing called iOS, and it's a huge program that runs on your iPhone. If you have an iPad, it's called iPad OS, but they're very, very similar. And this is kind of a stack of how things stack up. At the very bottom is the what we call the hardware. This is the chips and wires that make up your phone. And then you can see iOS is on top of that. That's software. And now there's a new thing called Apple Intelligence. We're not going to talk a whole lot about that. Later on next year, we're going to have a whole session on Apple Intelligence. And then on top of that are your apps, the things that you're familiar with running. So um, the iOS, they get updated every year about September. In this year it was October, and it contains new features to confuse. Wait a minute, to add new features. There we go. Fix bugs and increase security. It only confuses you as a bonus on the side. And for those of you that have upgraded from one time to the next, you know the new release sometimes can be confusing. And it's important to note that older iPhones may not be upgradable. And I don't remember what phones will support iOS 26. I think the iPhone 10 is the latest one, the oldest one. So on top of that, what are settings? Well, settings is a layer of iOS that tells the operating system, iOS, and the apps how to handle things. So you can see it's right smack in the middle of things here. And it, as I mentioned, it tells iOS and the apps how to behave. And there are thousands of settings. We're going to cover what I consider to be important ones. So keep in mind that this is a lot subjective. I chose the ones that I think are important, and we're not going to cover all of them, obviously. So let's look at an overview of the settings. And what I like to do, I don't know if we can do this. Oh, shoot. This is an overview of some useful shortcuts on your phone. And this has stayed the same for quite some time. The first one is iPhone search. So if you tap in the middle of your, hang on a second here, we're going to share, uh, all right. Can you all see that? This is my iPhone. And what happened? Here we go. So what you do is you pull in the middle and just tap down. I probably can't do that here. Oh shoot, I put it in uh, wiggle mode. If you just touch the middle and pull down, it will enter the search mode, and the search mode looks like this. And in this particular case, I think, I guess oh, here's the search mode. And it brings up some recently searched items. In my case, I wanted to look at my sleep last night, the camera, my watch. These are recently used apps. So this is really helpful for finding an app rather than leafing through all of your apps on your phone. The second one is the app library. What if I pull this off to the side here? And looks like this. And you get there by swiping right, or sorry, swiping left. The screens go to the right, and then you swipe down. And I don't know if I can do that here or not. So I'm just going to keep swiping to the left. And here I end up with the app library. So on your phone, you can try that. Just keep swiping left, and you end up with the app library. Now, if you swipe down, which I probably won't be able to do, it will give you an alphabetical list of all the apps on your phone. So boy, that's touchy. Come on, Bobski, you can do this. There we go. So that's back to my home screen. Another one is the control center. And the control center contains a lot of frequently used controls like airplane mode, for example, and that sort of thing. I also don't think I can produce that here. But if you go to the upper right corner of your phone and pull down, you will see the control center. And then there's browse open apps, and I can show you that. That looks like this. And you get from to that by pulling up from the bottom, unless you, or sorry, yeah, pulling up from the bottom about a quarter of the way. If you have a Touch ID model, which means you use your fingerprint, you can just double press the home button and you will get that same view. And that lets you leaf through currently open apps. And the good thing about that is, for example, if you get two-factor authentication, you can go to your messages, copy the 6-digit code, and then come back to, let's say, Safari, and you can fill in the 6-digit code. So that's kind of a quick and easy way to fulfill two-factor authentication. Also, if you're in search, I don't have that on, or in settings, you can pull down and find a search bar to search for specific settings. So let's go to here. There we go. So those are some shortcuts. Let's look first of all at the main settings screen. So I did this this is all of the settings. If you go to the little gear icon on your iPhone, you will see there's what turns out to be, for me, about 4 pages of settings. This is first page, second, third, and fourth. This is all of them, not counting all the individual app settings that you have. And we're going to leaf through some of these, many of these, and see how they work. So first of all, let's look at privacy and security. And this is, you can see the star here. This is one that's probably pretty important. Make sure you're logged in with your Apple account. And that's done by clicking on your name in the settings panel and going to the Apple account submenu. You can see if I tap on this, it comes up with the Apple account. And inside the Apple account are all of these different options. So one of the things that people do a lot is try to figure out how much space you have in iCloud. And you can see when I'm in the Apple account settings, if I tap on iCloud, it will show me the storage that I'm using. Now, who here has not received an email that says, your photos will be deleted, your iCloud account is full, call us immediately, and we can help you fix it? Well, that is always a scam. And the way you can verify that is through this process we just went through. Go to your Apple account, go to iCloud, and look at the storage and see. Normally, if you pay, for example, 99 cents a month, you have 50 gigabytes of storage. I happen to pay $9.99 a month for 2 terabytes of storage, but that is shared amongst my family. But you can double check for yourself. You can say, no, I'm not out of iCloud storage. No, my photos are not going to be deleted. And if you tap on the storage, you will actually get details about what you're using here. And here you can see I'm using, let's see, this is kind of gummed up here. I'm using 11% of my iCloud space is photos, messages is 0.8, and so on. So if you click on an icon here, you can get even further details. All right, while we're in the iCloud services, there are a bunch of other settings. And if you go to your iCloud setting in and scroll down, you'll see things that are saved to iCloud. For example, I have 42,000 photos in iCloud. I've got 1,000 passwords. We're going to talk more about that here in a minute. But if you click on See All, you will see everything that's shared on iCloud. And generally, the majority of space is taken up with photos and videos. Everything else is just noise, depending on how your computer's set up. But it's good to know kind of where your storage on iCloud is being taken up. And you can see here, iCloud Mail, I've got 7,000 bytes, which is just nothing. All right. So let's look at photos, because there's one setting that you really want to pay attention to. If I go to the iCloud settings again and I tap on photos, you'll see it brings up a little sub-menu about the photos. And you want to have optimize iPhone storage checked. So if you've gone through all of this, you look down here. The alternative is download and keep originals. And if you did that, even the largest phone would probably not hold all your photos. So use optimize iPhone storage. Okay, so that's a setting you should double check, especially if you have a lot of photos. All right, let's look at sign-in and security while we're talking about your Apple account. Be sure that you have two-factor authentication turned on. And when you go to sign-in security, two-factor authentication, it will give you a list of trusted devices. And if there are none, you want to add a trusted phone number. And that's so even if someone were to get your password, which you hopefully doesn't happen, but even if they did, you would be notified if they were trying to log in. Never give, I don't know if I said that, if you get a message that says, here's the 6-digit code for you to log in, and you didn't start that, never give that 6-digit code to anyone unless it's me sitting next to you or you somehow initiated it. Never on the phone or through any emails or text messages. Never give up that 6-digit number. The other thing you might want to do is set up recovery contacts. And recovery contacts designates someone to help you get into your Apple account if you forget the password or something goes astray. Similarly, a legacy contact is someone that will have access to your account after you're gone. And by that, I mean literally, Apple has to have a death certificate in their hands before they will turn over the recovery information to that designated person. But you have to set it up ahead of time, and you do that by tapping on Legacy Contact. Nothing will happen until your demise, but you will at least have someone, for example, all your photos. Your photos could be lost if you pass away and someone can't access your account. So it's a good idea to set up a legacy contact. There's also a thing called Find My. This is interesting. I think it was yesterday or the day before, I had someone call me and said, I've lost my phone. Well, on her computer, on her iMac, we were able to use the Find My app, and we found her phone at her church that she had left there on Sunday. So this is a really good thing to set up. And what you do is uh, set up, tap on Find My, and it brings up this sub menu, and you want Find My iPhone turned on and Share My Location turned on if you choose to share that. And you can see here, this is my family that I share my location with. So they can always see where I am as long as I'm allowing them to see that. Should you lose your device, let's say your iPhone or your iPad, Find My will allow you to lock it and erase it. So if some bad guy gets a hold of it, they won't be able to do anything with it. Also, I mentioned this, you can share your location with family. So Find My is a pretty cool thing to turn on. All right, Face ID and passcode, depending on the phone model you have, most of the phones these days are Face ID capable. But the thing you want to set up is a strong passcode on your device. And 1234 is generally not the passcode that you want to use. And then also set up Face ID, or if your phone supports Touch ID, set that up. And that is, not only is that secure, Face ID is very secure. For example, someone can't take your picture and stick it up in front of your phone. It actually looks in 3 dimensions to see your face. So it's very secure, but it's also quite a convenience because if I pick up my phone and I just look at it, it unlocks and I don't have to enter the 6-digit code, which, I mean, that takes multiple seconds and, delays me. There's also under this category, under Face ID and passcode, a thing called stolen device protection. Now, I generally say this is optional. Stolen device protection protects you against the rare case of someone having your phone unlocked. And where this came about is on the subways in New York. People would use Face ID to unlock their phone. They're standing in the subway reading their email, and someone grabs their phone and runs away with it. Well, your phone's unlocked. They essentially have access to everything. If you have stolen device protection turned on, they can still look at your phone, but they can't make any changes. They can't change the password. They can't get into any of your accounts that are Face ID or password protected. And you can still remotely erase it. So this helps protect if you're in crowded situations. It has a little downside, and that is if you're away from home, it knows when you're home, by the way. If you're away from home and you try to change your Apple ID, for example, you have to wait an hour. And we've had folks come into the senior center that need some uh, they need some help, but they don't know their Apple ID and we need to change it. Well, if stolen device protection is on, we can't really do it because they have to wait for an hour to do it because they're not at home. So that's the kind of the downside.
Bobski,
Yes, sir.
there's a comment in the chat about could you provide a little more information on where you are and how you got there?
Look at this right here. Up on the upper right, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back a bunch of times. See this little path up here? This path will always tell you where you are. That's a really good question. And I tried to make it because there are so many submenus and you can get so lost. This tells you the path to get what we're currently talking about.
Oh, okay, we'll put
Does
it
that
down.
help? And thanks for doing that. I wish I'd have mentioned that. Let's see, set a strong.
Bobski, I have a question.
Sure.
My phone only has Touch ID and passcode. There's no face recognition,
Right. We talked about that. Um, Set up
which I
Face
wouldn't
ID.
want to do anyway. If you're wearing a BiPAP or whatever at night and you try to get to your phone, it won't recognize you because you don't look the same.
Oh,
Right?
yeah. Touch
That's why I
ID.
haven't set it up. I mean, on any device.
Well, wait, you have Touch ID, which means you have a phone that has a button, a home button, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
I have an SE3.
right. Exactly. The SCs are the ones with the Touch ID. So what we're talking about generally applies to all of those same phones. It's just that you can't set up recognize my face. You can only set up recognize my fingerprint. But other than that, everything else is the same.
Okay. I guess I only have an iPhone unlock, but I don't have that. It says unlock. Does that mean I've locked my phone with a
Yeah,
password? I have a 6-digit password.
right, right. Here, we're going to talk about that right now. Face ID and
Okay.
passcode. See that? And here's the path that how we got there, right? Settings, Face ID, and passcode. Um, you can set up Face ID or Touch ID to fill in passwords for you. And I have 11 apps. Let's see. I have 11 apps that when I open up the app, let's say UC Health, it recognizes my Face ID, or in your case, Therese, your Touch ID, and it will fill
Okay.
in the password for you. So that's really a convenience. I don't have to worry about what my King Super's password is because it's connected to Face ID to fill in passwords.
All right.
Okay.
But there's still, you still have to, like into UC Health, you still have to get verified again and they have to send you a code.
You should only have to do that once.
Oh, okay. I have to do it
Yeah.
every time. I'm not sure
Oh,
why.
well, let's talk about that later
Okay.
because there's a little checkbox that says remember this device when you log in.
Oh, okay.
And check that. And all of these accounts have that in some way or another. They have a little thing up front with your password, username, and there's generally a little checkbox that says, remember this device. And if it does, then you don't have to enter the password. You
Okay.
still have to verify who you are, though. And that's what the Face ID and Touch ID does.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
no one can willy-nilly get into your accounts without being you, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cool. With iOS 17, Apple came out with this passwords app, and this passwords app is essentially a password manager for your Mac or your iPad or your iPhone. And if you can find your password app on your phone, uh, let's see, do I have, can I go to my phone? Oh, it says my phone's in use. Yes, of course it is. There we go. And here's my passwords app. Now it's going to enter your password to continue. Wow, what do I have to do there? uh, I can't, shoot, unlock. It will always require you to unlock your phone to get to the passwords app. Never mind. We'll fiddle with that later. This is what it looks like. These are all the passwords that I have stored in my password manager. These are passkeys, and we'll talk about passkeys in a future session at the Senior Center. Wi-Fi passwords. I go to a lot of different places, so I have a lot of Wi-Fi passwords. This is interesting. Let's see. We're gonna talk more about that. So if I tap on all, these are all of my passwords in alphabetical order, or I can search for them. And you can see account online, whatever that is. Every place that I've visited and stored a password is stored here. All 1,000, well, it was 1,100 here. It's 1,064 here. And we're going to talk about how to set that up. So the other thing is security. And in my particular case, so this is one of those do as I say, don't do as I do, because I have 772 security warnings. In other words, I have compromised passwords or easily guessed passwords or a password that's reused. Go figure, this is a financial services thing. I should definitely go change that. And you can go in and look at these, and theoretically, you should eliminate all of these security issues. There's always a balance between practicality, though, and what you should do. So the only thing is make sure your key accounts, like your Apple ID, your Google account, your Wells Fargo account, make sure that those are not on this list. All right. So now we're going to go into the settings for passwords. We were currently looking at the passwords, or were previously looking at the passwords app. This is in the settings. So you go to the gear icon, scroll all the way to the bottom. There's a little thing called apps, and then scroll down to the passwords app. And you want allow detect compromised passwords on. You want that on. You want automatic passkey upgrades on. That's when you visit a site, and many sites today are using passkeys, which is an alternative to passwords. And you want those to be automatically upgraded. And then probably the thing that you use most frequently is passwords autofill. So enable autofill stores your passwords securely on your phone, actually encrypted and in the cloud, and it will autofill those passwords for you. Now, there is an autofill from, and you can actually use, for example, Google. If you use Chrome on your phone, you can use Google to autofill your passwords. I recommend, first of all, only check one of these. And generally, that is the passwords app. And I'll enable suggest strong passwords. I haven't had to think up a password for a couple of years now. I let the password manager create secure, long passwords for me, and then they get stored here. So I don't have to write them down anywhere. I don't have to create a spreadsheet. They're stored in the password manager and are auto-filled when I go to that specific site. So there's also a security feature here in that let's say you get an email that looks all in the world like it's from Wells Fargo, and it says your account is compromised. Click here to go to the page that will help you. And you click on it, and it looks like you went to a Wells Fargo site, but your password manager won't autofill. That's an indication you are at a bogus site, that you are at a scammer site. If it doesn't autofill, that means the password manager says, nope, this is not Wells Fargo, so I'm not going to fill the password here. So there's a little byproduct of using autofill is it's an added security feature. So if you do get to a website and your autofill doesn't work, take a pause and question how you got there and really where you are. Don't just willy-nilly go, oh, it forgot the password and start filling it in, because there's a reason it didn't want to fill it in for you. All right. Everybody there? Everybody buckled up for all of these different settings?
I don't have some of those settings, I guess.
Yeah, we talked about that. If you're not at iOS 26, you may not have some of those settings. You're probably on iOS 17.
Yes, I have not done 26 because I was afraid it would make my phone even hotter.
Um, it might. We have a video. It's actually in the handout. I'll link to the video on the SCTC website about should I upgrade to iOS 26. And so I encourage you to go take a look at that.
Okay.
All right. So, and speaking of which, here we are, the software updates. So we're talking about the settings icon, scrolling down to general, and going to software update. And you can check to see if you're on the latest iOS version. And if you tap on software update, it will take you to a screen that looks like this. Now, this is a long time ago. I was on iOS 16. But this is the point. If you're on 17 currently, you will get a screen that looks like this. This will be iOS 17 or iOS 17 with the option to upgrade to iOS 26. So you can choose. You can say, do I want to just update what I'm currently on or take the leap and go to the next version of the operating system, which is iOS 26. I couldn't reconstruct this because I'm already on iOS 26, so I don't have this kind of screen. Again, go to that video that we created and take a look at that. So I generally recommend doing the upgrade, but some people, arguably many people, say, I don't want to upgrade right away. I want to let other people use this for 2 or 3 months before I go to take the leap to this new version. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's perfectly fine. Okay, here's another one that's important. That's your iPhone storage. And it shows how much storage you're using on your phone. Now, this is different than in the cloud. This is actually how much room you're taking up on your phone with photos and applications and that kind of thing. If you have a lot of photos, and a lot would be over 50 gigabytes, say, depending on the capacity of your iPhone,
See that?
go back to that section we talked about, optimizing storage for photos. But this shows you can see my iPhone has 256 gigabytes. So when I bought it, I opted for that option of 256 gigabytes. If you're buying an iPhone, you'll get different options here. I generally go for the least amount of storage because every increment costs you money at the time. And you can see here, I'm not using that much storage on my phone. I'm using a fifth of it at best. So you can see I don't need a lot of that extra space. So anyway, if this is getting really full, you either need to reduce the number of applications or turn on photo optimization or delete some messages, that kind of thing to try to reduce it. Or, of course, there's always buy a new iPhone. It's only money, right? All right, let's look at Control Center. This is something that's new in iOS 16 or 17, I believe. And what it has is a bunch of commonly used, let's call them switches, that control how your iPhone works. And it gives you really quick access to controls that you might use fairly frequently, like flashlight, volume, screen brightness. My favorite, we're going to talk about that, is the font size that you see on your screen. And that is through Settings Control Center. If you're using a Face ID, you can swipe down from the top right edge. If you have an SE where you have a home button, swipe up from the bottom, and you will see this Control Center. It's very customizable. And this is an image of my Control Center that I have customized quite heavily. And you can see I've got, well, maybe I've got it here. This is my Control Center. So there's a connectivity block. So airplane mode, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, things like that. There's an orientation lock. If you've ever accidentally toggled this and you tip your phone sideways, nothing happens. Generally, it means the orientation lock is on. The text size, and this is the one that's really useful. If you tap on this, I may have a slide on that. You can change the text size on either the app that you're currently using or the entire system. And you can make the text size really big. So there's like 5 or 6 words on your screen. It's so big. There's also a thing called timer, which you can use for setting kitchen timers or setting alarms for certain times, or a stopwatch. There's a calculator. There's a flashlight, which I use frequently. Measure is pretty cool. It allows you to, I don't know uh, if I can bring up measure. Let's see if we can do that. Hang on a second. We're doing this on the fly, you understand. So I'm going to, oh, I can't get to Control Center. Never mind. That's not, we can do it at the end because I can share my phone screen. Measure is really cool. It will allow you to measure the dimensions of something just straight away with your phone, and it's very accurate. Do not disturb I use a lot. For example, I should have do not disturb turned on if I'm giving a presentation. We're also going to talk about do not disturb while you're sleeping, because if you've ever gotten a scam call at the middle of the night, it's very irritating, or text message, you can turn that off so that you're not getting bothered. And mine goes on at 9:15 and goes off at 7 a.m.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, but where do you find the things that you can add to this control center?
Ah, very good question. You let me share my screen. Can I do that? Goodness. Can we hold that to the end?
Sure. Yeah, I just
Well,
I
maybe I can show you. Pull down Control Center. No, you probably can't see it. From the upper right, if you have a Face ID.
okay.
And in
Yeah, I
the
did
upper
that.
left corner, there's a little plus sign. You see that plus sign?
Oh yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and if you tap on that, it'll go into sort of wiggle mode. And at the bottom, it will say add a control.
Oh, okay.
And so you can see the little minus signs. That allows you to remove that control.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Um, if you can see on the lower right of each control, there's like a little semicircle handle.
Yeah, it looks like a bee.
That will allow you to increase or decrease the size of that control.
Okay.
So you can make like big squares out of things or little dots out of things. So if you're looking at what we got here, this is the plus sign right here.
Okay, right. Okay.
And it'll go into semi-wiggle mode. You'll see the minus sign right here. When we get done, I'll show you this because I can show you live with my phone. The app
Okay.
I'm using to share my phone right now just is very limited.
Okay.
Cool, great question. Control Center is very useful. Oh, another thing about Control Center. Over here you can see a heart. These are my favorites. But this musical note, if I tap on that, it has my entertainment Control Center. And then this one is specific to networking, so it has more controls than even this. So you can actually scroll through multiple pages of Control Center. Yeah, they've made it very powerful. Okay, marching through the different settings here, battery is an important one. And it shows you the percentage of health on your display right here. You can see mine's been pretty healthy, largely because you can see from 4 in the afternoon until 9, or maybe this is 4 in the morning till 9. I had it plugged in, and you can see it charged, and then it starts uncharging. And then you can also, if you tap on, do I have that? If you tap on show activity, it will show you the activity, the amount of battery drain based on the application. And I did this when I was preparing this presentation. So I was using settings a whole lot. So you can see here that my battery was being drained mostly by using the settings app. But you've got things like Tile, which runs in the background that helps me find my keys, my church services, find my, those kinds of things. So it's just kind of useful. The only time your battery gets drained significantly, if you're not really doing a lot, is generally using an activity or an app that relies on the GPS. And a GPS app is one of those things. Like I've got an app that allows me, it's called Gaia GPS, that allows me to, follow myself around, look at maps and that sort of thing. If I let that run in the background while I'm hiking, it will drain my battery fairly fast because it's waking up about 3 times a second and checking my location. So if you see something here that's really high on the list, considering going into the app, active apps menu, which we talked about earlier, and removing that, killing that app, unless of course you're using it.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, so I have my battery activity just makes a straight triangle down and then goes to red
Right.
and then goes partway up to yellow to about 60%. And then from, 7 p.m. to 9 a.m. or 9:30 a.m., it's just like yours. So does that mean that there's an issue with it? And I don't have very much on here, which is crazy.
Yeah. Well, the SE, it depends on how old it is. Your battery, did
It's
it
a
tell you
it's a year old.
Oh, okay. Well, that should be okay. You may have something running in the background.
No,
Um,
I turned off all backgrounds.
hmm.
Mm.
Well, we can take a look at it. Can you see this battery screen that shows you by activity?
Right. Let me go to my battery. Okay. Yes, I can see that.
Yeah, what floats to the top?
Oh, just a minute. I think Facebook is 43%,
Yep.
but I'm
Facebook.
not really on Facebook.
Yeah, but it's running. It's running in the background. Facebook keeps track of your feed and that sort of thing.
Oh.
Yeah, so kill that app before you just lay your phone down without charging it
Hmm.
or during the day. All right.
Okay.
Let's look at this thing called focus. And it has in itself, we could probably do an entire class on just the focus settings. But the thing that I find most useful is this thing called Do Not Disturb. And what Do Not Disturb does is it blocks alerts and banners and calls. It so that they are essentially blocked unless you designate someone or something that specifically can break through the do not disturb. So in my particular case, so I go to settings, focus, and look at do not disturb. You can see here, I allow notifications from these people, which are my family, and these apps, which are my home security apps. So if someone hops up on my patio in the middle of the night, I will get a notice that says, hey, there's motion detected on your patio, even though I have Do Not Disturb turned on. So when you set it up, think about folks that will be that may call you that you would want to hear from, even when Do Not Disturb is turned on. And I think I've got, so to use this, you set up a schedule generally, although you can do it at a particular location. You can say, hey, if I'm at the senior center, I want Do Not Disturb on. But generally, this schedule is the most useful. And if you go to Do Not Disturb, you can see I set up a schedule. Oh, from 10:30 to 7, my Do Not Disturb comes on. And that schedule looks like this. And I mentioned you can set up a location. For example, when I'm at the senior center, I generally turn on Do Not Disturb. And on your phone, if you tap on Do Not Disturb, it will bring up a note that says, when do you want to cancel Do Not Disturb? And I say, when I leave this place. So I turn it on, and I don't have to remember when I leave the senior center that I want it to turn off Do Not Disturb. It's pretty clever little feature, and it helps keep you from getting needless interruptions. All right, another one is emergency SOS, and this one is quite clever. It'll call your emergency contacts in the event of a crash. And I seriously had someone come up to me about 6 months ago, and she said, I was in a car crash, and my phone called my daughter, and unbeknownst to me, called my daughter and said that I had been in a car crash. And then it called her when the paramedics got her to the hospital. It called her daughter, or texted her, I think. It texted her and told her she was now at the hospital, which is crazy. Now, if you have an Apple Watch, you're also familiar with this. Your Apple Watch can detect sometimes if you're in a crash. It'll do it sometimes mistakenly, and you have to say, no, I wasn't in a crash. The same thing happens with a phone. If you really jolt your phone a lot, you might get this severe crash notification. Be sure to turn it off, or it will call 911 for you. Now, the other thing is that you don't have to be within cell range in order for this to work. With iOS 17 and 26, it will use a satellite connection to call 911. And not only will it call 911, but it will notify the nearest emergency services facility. That it has a phone book somewhere that it knows who that is. And sure enough, it will call. I've tested this out, although not in emergency manner. I've tested this out in the middle of the Red Desert in Wyoming, where there's the nearest cell service is 90 miles away, and it works great. It sure enough connects to a satellite, and I could text my daughters via satellite. So that's kind of cool. And if you want to fiddle with this, go to Emergency SOS and scroll down, and there's a thing that will lead you through how to use satellite connection. And this is free, by the way, currently. All right. Whew. We're wading our way through these. I hope everyone's head's still attached, because this is crazy. If you go to the settings screen and scroll all the way to the bottom, there's a setting called apps. And what that does is it leads you to a screen that shows you all the apps that have various kinds of settings. They're arranged alphabetically. A little quick note is if you tap over here on the right, on the very edge of your screen, it will instantly snap you down to that location. So if I tap on the M here, for example, it will go to the M's immediately. You don't have to sit here and scroll all the way to the bottom. I wish more long menus had this capability, because it's pretty cool.
I'm sorry, where do I find settings?
Under the gear icon.
Oh, okay. I was looking in a different spot. Okay, I did settings, but I couldn't find apps.
Well, it depends on what iOS you're running. In 17 and 26, it's the very bottom thing in the menu, in the settings menu. If you're not running 17 or 26, you won't see it.
I'm running 17.1.
Yeah, it should be there. Go all the way to the bottom.
Well, I see a bunch of apps.
Um, I'd have to look at it, Therese.
Okay,
The 17 has the app setting.
sorry.
So we're going to go through, let me go back. In this long list of apps over here, we're going to go through a few of what I consider important settings for important apps. We're not going to go through each one of these because we don't care about Air Canada's app settings at the moment. But we do care about messages. So if you scroll down to the M's in that list, you will see messages, and it says settings, apps, messages. And here's the one that I think that is important to turn on, and it depends on your
No.
tolerance for spam or your uh, the irritation level that these spam callers give you. I turn on screen unknown senders. In other words, if I don't know if that person is not, that I receive a text from is not in my address book, it won't pop up on my phone. Now, I still get it and I can still see it, but it doesn't notify me immediately that that I got a text
Don't
message.
have that.
And the other thing is filter spam. And
Hmm.
your carrier keeps a list of spam
See that.
locations. Thank you, Daryl. Um, and these are known spam or scammers, and your carrier will tag them as being spam. And if you turn this on, those will be put into a different category on your messages screen. So do I have, I don't have this on the screen here, but turn on these three things, or at least two anyway. Retry as text messaging. If you scroll this down, you will get a screen that, or a toggle that says retry it as text message. And this is useful if, for example, you have really sketchy cell service. Your message, your iMessage may not be able to be sent, but a text message can be sent, and it will try to retry your text message. This doesn't happen very often, but it doesn't hurt to have this toggled on. The other thing, and this is the RCS is new with iOS 17, is rich communication services, I think. And that is the protocol that Android phones use. So if you turn this on, you'll be able to communicate cleanly with Android people if you have friends that have Android phones. So be sure you turn that on. And MMS is an older style, multimedia messaging service is an older style, but the messaging app will attempt to use it if it has to. And you can send videos and photos and audio and that sort of thing if MMS is. So enable both of those in this list.
And where is that again, please?
It's in settings, apps, messages.
Settings, apps, messages, right?
Yeah, you should be able to scroll all the way down. I'm going to make that, when we get done here, we're going to go to my live phone and I'll show you this stuff. Okay. What was the other one that we had? Oh, control panel, but we got that kind of fault. We got that kind of answer. Yeah, you should be able to see retry as text message, RCS message on all of those. We'll do it when we get done here.
Okay.
Okay. So here is my messages app. So we're moving away from, this is settings, apps, messages. If you go back to your messages app and open it, there's a little kind of hamburger menu, we call it, up in the upper right. It's not shown here because I've toggled it. And it will bring up this, because I have this filter turned on, this is how these messages are filtered. So this says, only show me messages from people that I know who they are. And that's my message list. But if I tap on unknown senders, I will see the text messages I received from senders that are not in my address book. And obviously, this might be useful, for example, if you have a doctor's appointment and the doctor's office sends you a text and you've not previously received a text from that location or that 6-digit code, you will be able to see it in here. Similarly, spam is the same way. If your carrier has detected that it's spam, it will go into the spam bucket, but there's a possibility it might not be. And if you click on manage filtering here, it will take you back to this screen. So this is a really nice way of removing all those irritating text messages. And sometimes, I won't say dangerous, but we all get text messages from scammers. And oh, a note to the side here. If you do receive a text message, and generally they take the form of reply Y for yes or N for no. No matter what they say, they will ask you to reply some way. Don't do it. Don't even reply N for no, because when you do that, your phone says, oh, the owner of this phone knows the person that just sent that text, and it starts going into the messages folder. So if you have a text message that you're even remotely suspicious of, do not respond to it in any way. Just delete it. Because once you respond, and that's what these scammers are hoping you'll do, is just say, no, I don't want any more of these. Nope. When you do that, you're inviting many more scams. So don't respond to them. Okay. Similar to the messaging app is the phone app. Let's see if we can go here. And the first one to toggle is Wi-Fi calling. Your phone is obviously 99, well, almost all phones are connected to the cellular system via cell service. But depending on the plan you have, it can cost you money to connect to the cellular network, especially if you're transferring data. For example, if I go to upgrade to iOS 26, that's going to require a lot of data. Make sure that if you do an update or an upgrade, or you're watching a movie, for example, attempt to connect to a Wi-Fi network, have this turned on, and instead of going through the cellular network, your phone will transfer data through the local Wi-Fi network. And the perfect example of that is if you come into the senior center and we look at upgrading you to iOS 26, you want to have this turned on so you're using the senior centered Wi-Fi. Let them pay for the data instead of you paying for the data over your cellular network. So you can leave that on. Calls on other devices is very convenient. It's generally for people that have other Apple products. In my case, I don't have it here, but in my case, I can send and receive calls on my laptop or on my desktop computer or on my iPad or on my watch or on, believe it or not, I can actually talk on my phone. So this allows you to use other devices as your phone, and it works great. I'm sitting here in my office. If my phone rings, my phone may be in the kitchen. I can answer the call here on my computer and talk just as if I was talking on a Zoom call or whatever, even though my phone is not next to me. This is new. I think this is new with 26, hold assist detection. And I've used this, I can't remember what I called. I was at a client's the other day, and I think we were calling Apple, or I don't know, maybe her bank. I remember it's one of those where you put on hold endlessly. What this does is if you turn this on, when you're on hold, if you made a phone call and you're on hold, you can enable this and just set your phone down. And when it detects a voice on the other end, it wakes up and says, your call has been completed or is connected. And you can pick up your phone and start talking. You don't have to sit here with this thing on your ear or sit here and listen to some crazy background music. It will do that for you, which is really nice. Live voicemail, I also encourage you to turn that on. What that does, and I used to demo it in person, is if someone calls you and let's say you're busy and but it is someone you know because you're allowing them to come through, they'll start leaving you a voicemail. When this is turned on, you can, in real time, look at the phone and see the transcription of the voicemail that's being left. And for example, you hear a phone ring, you're busy, it connects, and you see on there, hey, your car was just stolen. You can pick it up and say, wait, what? And you can talk to them live. So you're looking at the voicemail, but you can still pick up the call. So that's a nice feature to have on. There's a zillion other settings here. Yeah, these you can play around with these, but those are the important ones. All right, and along those lines on your phone and reduce spam, there is a panel. Now this panel is definitely new with iOS 26. There's something kind of similar on 17, but not like this. It doesn't have this capability. And what you can do, you can see here, I have this checked, ask reason for calling. If an unknown caller calls your phone, and by unknown, we mean it's not in your address book, it will actually say, hey, why are you calling this number? And I had this happen the other day, and it was a spam call. And I got the voicemail transcription, and my phone said, please give me the reason for this call, or something very similar to that. And it was a recording calling me. So all you got was a transcription of the recording. It ignored my request and subsequently hung up. So this is kind of cool because it says, hey, why are you calling? If it's a human, especially let's say it's your doctor office, they should ostensibly respond and allow you to see the transcription of the voicemail and pick it up if you like. So that's kind of cool. You can just say never, and you'll basically never get phone calls live. You still get to see them in the unknown callers list, but you won't see them live, which is call filtering. So all of these settings are in the phone app. So you go to apps and phone, and you turn on unknown callers, and then spam is, in my case, AT&T is my carrier. Calls identified by AT&T as spam are silenced. And if you do delete a phone call, it will generally say, is this, when you delete it, do you want to delete it and report it as spam? And if you do, it gets added to the counters for this list here, which is pretty cool. All right, that's messages and phone. Let's go to appearance, which is, there's a couple of features here that I think are important. First of all, text size. So if you go into settings, display and brightness, there's a text size toggle here. And what it does is it allows you, and I don't have that screen over here, but it's a little slider, and it allows you to change the size of the text. And this is drastic for me. If I'm working with someone at the senior center and they have not enlarged their text, it's almost microscopic because I'm so used to having my text at about 120% on my phone so I can read it. If someone hasn't set that, it's really hard to read it. The other one is bold text. I always turn this on. It makes it easier to see. And especially with iOS 26, which has this liquid glass look and feel, it makes it so much harder to, or much easier to read if you turn bold text on. Auto lock. I often work with people that have auto lock set to like 20 seconds. And you're doing something, and then you go off to look at something, and you come back, and the phone is locked again, and you have to unlock it. If you're working on your phone, like right now, for example, you probably want to set auto lock to like 20 minutes. That way it won't lock while you're sitting here listening to this presentation, fiddling around. I have mine set at 3 minutes, which is kind of a good compromise. The reason you want to set it shorter is you don't want somebody to grab your phone and have it be unlocked. We talked about that with stolen device protection. But I figure I'm going to be hanging onto my phone for at least 3 minutes, so that's okay. Display zoom is larger text. That is separate from this text size, but it allows you to turn on larger text for everything. And I encourage you to explore that as well. I have mine set at larger text. All right, those are the important things there. You can change the wallpaper in the background, and that's kind of cool. You can also change it from the lock screen, but that's a different project. And when you go to settings, wallpaper, you can see how I've got my pups, some of my pups in the background here. And it allows you to customize your home screen so that you've got a kind of cool image there. All right. Phew, everybody okay? Right? I'm looking at all the people here. Elmer's passed out, I think, but everybody else seems to be doing okay. Let's talk about notifications. And I do have an entire session, an hour and a half session on just notifications to give you an idea of how complicated it is. We're going to hit the high points here. So this is what it looks like. And this happens to be the notification center, and we probably all seen this. For example, this is my home automation system. Here's a podcast on cybersecurity. And I have allowed these apps to provide these notifications on my home screen, unless I have them turned off with Do Not Disturb. And in the notifications settings, you can select when you see it, how it looks, and what to see. Oh, yeah, and you can also choose whether they make a sound or not. So let's first of all look at time-sensitive notifications. And for example, if I go into notifications and I scroll down and I tap on calendar, it brings up a special block that says allow time-sensitive notifications. What that means is I've designated notifications that come from the calendar app as being time-sensitive, and I want to know about them right away. And you can do that for any or all of these applications that are in here. It may go through Do Not Disturb if you select that. Like I say, it's a way of saying I want to block notifications, but I don't want to miss anything important. And it's specific by applications. You can choose the style of the alert, and you can say whether it plays a sound or not, and whether it has a banner or not. So we're going to talk more about that in a second. So this is the notification center. This is my home screen. And the little pink here is me scrolling. You can see I've scrolled up. I can see all of those. If I tap on home automation, it expands all of the notifications for that app. And then if I hit the X up here, it will allow you to clear them all. All right. And there you go. And you can tap on individual badges, as I mentioned, for more options. So let's go through that again. You can see here, if I tap on Train Home, which is my home automation, I can get all of the Train Home notifications expanded. Same with King Supers. If I tapped on this, I would get all the King Super notifications. So to change how an individual app provides notification, go to Settings, Notifications, choose the app. In this case, I'm going to choose Ancestry. Here, I'm going to go back. Tap on the app that you want. So I'm going to tap on Ancestry. And you can see I'm in here. I tap on Ancestry. It brings up a screen for Ancestry, meaning that all these notifications are just for the Ancestry app. I really want to know about Ancestry apps. So I have lock screen, notification center, and banners turned on. And I want to hear them, and I want a badge, which is a little red button that comes up that says you've got a notification. So you can see here, if you, most of these have a default, like books. I just choose banners and sounds here. In Amazon, I only have sounds. I don't have a banner coming up. I just have a beep. Acrobat, I don't want anything from Acrobat. So you can see you set these up individually. I only have a few of these that I have individually changed because there's so many apps and so many combinations, it would drive you crazy. So just pick the important ones like Ancestry, for example, or Family Search or Wells Fargo and set the notifications for those. So on the lock screen, there's 3 different ways of getting notifications. And you can see here settings, notification, and display as. The first one is you can just tap on, you can say, just show me the number. The second one is I can see a stack, which is a clever way of stacking notifications so they're a little easier to see. Or I can see all of them in a list. And that looks like this. You can see here's count. I will simply get a count. I'll get a thing on my home screen that says 3 notifications. Or if I choose stack, I'll get individual application notifications, but if there are multiples for that application, they are stacked, like here for Train Home. Or I can just say, I want the list of everything. And you can sit here and scroll through all of these notifications that I've received. So here I've got an Instagram notification. I've got a new photo from my Photos app. I've got a calendar invitation. And I could scroll down and see all of those. So that's, I use Stack because it's a combination of seeing a lot of stuff without seeing nothing. I hope that makes sense. All right. Last word here is the government, and there are some settings that are important here. And generally, your governmental organization, either local or state, can send you emergency alerts. These are the settings I turn on. I do get extreme weather alerts through this one right here, public safety alerts. I do not get Amber alerts because I was getting a fair number of them, and I suppose it's irresponsible, but they were just bugging me. And I do get public safety alerts. So I encourage you to turn those on. All right. This is our, did everybody get a copy of the handout, by the way? If you didn't, I can put it in the chat. Well, Daryl, do you have it?
Well, if you got the email inviting you to join this Zoom meeting, there's a link right in that email, that newsletter.
Right.
And also it'll be posted on our website under the Apple tab at the top of the website.
There you go. We were going to, so these are the settings that we covered. And as I mentioned, this is probably 1/100th of the settings that are, by the way, I forgot to mention this. There is a set of settings that are strictly for accessibility. And it's probably, again, this many settings for accessibility. And some of those are quite clever if you have someone that's, say, has dementia, for example, or somehow cognitively impaired, or needs to just have a few apps that are obvious, that kind of thing. You can turn those on through. I'm considering doing a whole session on accessibility, but it's there's a lot of things there. So this is the YouTube video that I mentioned. Let's switch to, actually, I'm going to stop recording. Is that all right?
Sure.
Well, friends, that's a wrap. We hope you've enjoyed this video today. Hey, before you go, if you like this video, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. And if you'd like to know when the latest SCTC video comes out, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell for notifications. And if you have any ideas or feedback, we'd love to hear from you. Be sure to leave a comment below. We'll see you next time.